thinking about all these strategies you just used, which of these strategies do you feel like you could apply in your classroom next year, assuming you hadn't already been using them? Is there something that you thought, this was amazing, I'm totally using it, and confident enough to do it? Yeah, Guille.
So I teach a special ed algebra class, so we do, a lot of XY tables, and then finding that students it's just too abstract for students to see that. So the double number line is really good.
Cool. So you felt like double number lines helps?
Like helps visualize it more, even though it's still the same concept. Like to see if the rate is constant, like instead of just seeing numbers, like you're seeing actual space, and they can count. And if they're not getting the XY table, maybe starting with double number lines.
Yeah.
Then that would be good.
I like how the double number line shows the relationship between the qualitatively different quantities as they grow together. Like they're growing at different rates together, but that growth is at a constant. Yeah, Mary.
The tape diagrams is something I haven't done, but we happened to do the interactive online one before we got to the actual other one. So seeing the online one, the setup of it, allowing a student to actually manipulate and set them up on the online was like, the paper ones are great. The drawing it is great, but manipulating it was, made it easier for me when I got to the actual setting it up.
Oh, cool.
Because I had already done it.
Previous experience.
Right.
Previous
Yeah,
experience.
Previous experience that was tactile that led to this.
To the better understanding of the linear
Right.
model.
Cool. Yes. So that's you're referring to the math playgrounds.
Yes, yes.
Manipulatives. The 6th grade teachers at my site swear by that website. They love it. Math playground. Yes.
And that works on Chrome, right?
That's a great question. Does Math Playground work on Chrome?
Yes.
It
Yes.
works on iPads.
It works on Chromebooks.
Math Playground works on Chromebooks
I think in iPads.
and maybe iPads?
I have one.
Can you open that door? Sorry.
What was really good about the math playground one was that in Engage New York, tape diagrams really starts in primary, and we spend so much time as teachers setting it up. How do you set it up? How do you? Because the setup is so crucial for them to understand and kind of manipulate the tape diagrams. And I loved it. I had never seen it, and that's something that I'm definitely going to take back because it forces them to set it up first before they can actually solve the problems.
So you like the website because prior to using the website, you were spending a lot of time teaching the setup, and the website forces them to get the setup before they can move on.
Yes.
And maybe it's going to cut that time down. It's more tactile, like Mary was saying.
And we do a lot of programs we have a lot of math programs that they use, like Khan or whatever that we do. But none of them force them to set up a problem with using the tape diagram like that.
While it's on my mind, we're talking about tape diagrams. I had first heard about tape diagrams from Singapore Math.
Yes.
And they're called bar models in that context. And there's a lot of cool, very complex problems that can be solved with that. So if you want to make a note, Singapore Math bar models, do a search, see what you find. Other things that we loved that we would take to our classroom next year. Yeah.
We went through CPM last year as our first year, and I had not heard of any of it. It's not mentioned at all.
The CPM doesn't mention any of these at all.
I missed it if they did.
They don't call them by the same names.
Interesting.
Okay.
Because if I'm going to back up, because we borrowed exact language from
CPM?
Common Core. So this.
No, CPM's not the.
Oh, you're right.
It's a curriculum.
It's a curriculum.
It's a curriculum.
That's what I was saying. Curriculums have their own.
But
Right.
they word them differently, but they are used, the tables
Right.
and things like that.
But
I have not
What's
seen.
up with that? Why are we using the same strategies and giving them different names?
Well, but I will use this for the visual. And we did the online last, and I think that's a really good beginning and a check for understanding at the end. for me, with tape diagrams, that third problem was really difficult. I just couldn't see it and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and so forth.
we
Yeah,
got
So
there
it's-
because we asked.
Did you resolve it or no?
yeah, GA
Oh, cool.
said, what about, and we went,
Yes. What about this?
You just need the what about in your group.
yeah.
Aha!
Cool.
But I think that it's really visual. I think with tape diagrams, I think that if you spend the time using them and getting fluent with them, they can be pretty powerful for kids.
I agree.
But I don't think you can just do it one day and walk away.
No.
I think they really need to spend the time and become more fluent and easy, because I thought, you know, with 3 or 4 more problems, I would get this. So I just think that you need to build in some fluency with this
Absolutely.
if you're gonna use it.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sarah.
So I did take diagrams for the first time last year, and one thing I noticed is if I didn't ask on a test, if I didn't ask for my students to use them, you know, my higher end students would just compute, but my low end students were able to, the ones who are not as math confident, they were like, this is a tool I can use. They were really good about using all of these models, whereas before, they tried to do some semblance of something and they didn't really, you know, they started on like half, but they didn't really have the concept down. But with the models, especially the tape diagrams, they had a good sense of, okay, these are multiples and I can do this.
So you saw these models increase access for students who struggle with this concept? Nice.
I just like the dynamic of the group because I think it mimics what our students are like, where GA goes, oh, what about this? And we have that student that goes, what about this? Or just in our group with Apple, I'm sorry, I forgot my other group member. Just the thinking, just how you see differently. Well, we spent more time explaining how we were thinking, how we felt like there's just a sample problem, and just the differences in approach, which the kids have. And then where do you go to? How do you go to for sharing things?
Nice. Yeah. So using these models and working collaboratively increased our opportunities to share how we're thinking about
And
the
understanding, yeah.
problem. Yeah. Yeah.
But, like, again, like, you know, like, that this is a 6th grade, that this is a 6th grade content, or whatever, but like, this is still very valuable in a high school setting, because in high school, you really only have one way. You have, like, the function, you know, you either get the function or you don't.
You have like the algebraic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, the fact that you can see things differently through all these different models, and kids can have different thoughts about it and understand it differently is really
Well, if we
powerful.
build it in elementary or the middle grades, then hopefully by the time they get to high school, they have the tools where they can pick just what works for
Or
them. Crystal's
now
method,
you
go
know the
faster.
tools,
Yeah.
so that you can build them back
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
because this is 6 and 7.
And I bugged a bunch of groups about the algebraic connection to tape diagrams. Like you draw that tape diagram, like for problem number 3, the number of liters in each space is x, call it x liters, and you can use that to set up an algebraic equation model, and then maybe if you're going to model a function from there. So it starts with a very concrete visual, and then we get more abstract representations from there, instead of starting at the abstract representation. Very cool.